Last night, a square mile in central Baghdad seemed like hell on earth.
Almost 3 years ago, the British and American coalition, which had overthrown Saddam Hussein, was given a very special responsibility by the United Nations. It was given trusteeship of more than $20 billion, which belonged to the people of Iraq. Over the next 14 months, it spent almost all of it. Yet no one can account for where it all went. Literally billions of dollars have gone missing.
American law was suspended, Iraqi law was suspended, and Iraq basically became a free fraud zone. In a free fire zone, you can shoot at anybody you want. In a free fraud zone, you can steal anything you like.
Tonight on Dispatches, we reveal the fraud, incompetence and corruption, which is the Iraq money pit.
We will help them to restore basic services, such as electricity and water, and to build new schools, roads, and medical clinics.
The coalition had $23 billion of Iraq's own money. So what have they done with it? The money included proceeds from the sale of Iraq's oil under the United Nations Oil for Food program and seized Iraqi bank accounts. It was all put into a new fund run by the coalition, the so-called Development Fund for Iraq. The fund was turned into hard cash, stored by the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. From there, literally tons and tons of crisp $100 bills were transported to Andrews Air Force Base near Washington, then flown to Iraq. Over the first 14 months of the occupation, 363 tons of $100 bills were flown in. That's $12 billion in cash.
Iraq was awash in cash, in dollar bills.
The CPA, or Coalition Provisional Authority, ran Iraq during that period, and they were in charge of the Iraqi money. But who ran the CPA? Officially, it was the Coalition of the Willing, including the UK. The reality was very different. The American State Department had prepared plans for the post-war rebuilding of Iraq, but the Bush administration swept those plans aside. Instead, power was handed to the people in this building. The Pentagon. The military, the people who run wars, not countries, were put in charge of nation building. The Pentagon's man in Iraq was American Ambassador L. Paul Bremer III, and he immediately put his stamp on the new regime. He said US contractors were not subject to Iraqi law.
He gave them immunity from prosecution or even collection actions under Iraqi law. So American law was suspended, Iraqi law was suspended, and Iraq basically became a free fraud zone. In a free fraud zone, you can steal anything you like. And that was what they did.
Frank Willis was one of Bremer's top officials. He was a senior member of the Coalition Provisional Authority and effectively in charge of all civil aviation in occupied Iraq. He's agreed to speak out about the Iraq money pit and how it worked.
Contracts were negotiated fast and furiously. Sums were paid. Contractors went about their business, but there was very poor oversight of the performance in those contracts. There was a lack of personnel on our part, and there was a lack of trained personnel on our part to provide an effective supervising function.
In an atmosphere of chaos, fantastic sums of money were stashed by the Americans in Saddam's captured palace. Bags of cash were handed out daily.
We were known to have played football with some of the bricks of $100 bills. before delivery. It was a Wild West crazy atmosphere, the likes of which none of us had ever experienced.
Security was incredibly lax. From one vault, $750,000 was stolen. Another safe was left open. In one case, 2 American agents left Iraq without accounting for nearly $1.5 million.
When you have cash, it stands to reason that you're not going to be able to trace in the same kind of way. It's why a lot of dirty deals are done in cash.
As word spread of the deals to be done in Iraq, contractors from around the world began to congregate. Some were reputable, some were not.
It attracted soldiers of fortune and people who went to Iraq in order to make a buck. These were people who had no interest in fostering democracy in Iraq. They had no interest even in carrying out their instructions from the U.S. military. What they were interested in was in simply making a profit. They saw their opportunity and they went for it. And these are the people who we know as the war profiteers.
The profiteers were on their way, and the Iraqi people were about to pay the price.